Hi guys, so Robert Jenrick, who's the Housing Secretary, was interviewed by Sky News about testing and about the possibility of further restrictions. Now, what I think he means by further restrictions is another lockdown. It's unavoidable at this stage. Boris Johnson and his government are trying to avoid this issue, but due to the number of new cases every day, it has to be imposed. And I'll explain why in a moment. So let's hear what he had to say.
Let's talk about community testing, shall we? 17 areas have been identified as additional sites for the rollout of community testing. Can we just be clear about this? The areas that you have picked for this testing are areas which are at risk of greater restriction.
Well, they are the areas where the virus is strongest, where it's rising fast, where there are particular challenges, like it may be rising fast amongst the over 60s, the people who are most likely to be unwell. We want to target our resources in the places where it's needed the most. It's also a significant effort doing this for the local councils, for the local NHS, and so they won't want to do this lightly, so we're focusing the effort in the places that need it the most.
But you will have seen the papers this morning and widespread reporting that there will be areas moving into tougher restrictions, perhaps all the way to Tier 4 on Boxing Day. When can we expect that announcement?
Well, we don't have a timetable for that. The government's COVID Operations Committee is meeting later today to review further evidence. We keep this under review. We're constantly hearing from our scientific advisor about what we should do. The new variant, I think, is very worrying. The situation with the virus was concerning before that, but the new variant is very concerning. It's only been 5 days since we learnt about its true transmissibility, the level of concern
we have more
face with it,
and we have more evidence of all of
is
that
rising.
as well.
It is very concentrated in London and the South East, but we've also heard now that it's prevalent probably in most regions of the country, albeit to a lesser extent. And so it may be necessary to take further action.
So it may be necessary to take further action. So what is he talking about? Of course, a lockdown. Now, I want to show you just on this map. You can see here the map of England. You can see how the different tiered systems. So, of course, the darker the color, the higher the tier. And it's not just the tiered system, but it's also the number of new cases. Now, I want to show you number of new cases when the very first lockdown was imposed. The very first lockdown was imposed back in the 23rd of March. At that stage, there were 2,335 new cases per day. On the 22nd of December, there were 36,803 new cases. Now, we can look at deaths at the same time. On the 23rd of March, there were 76 deaths, while on the 22nd of December, there were 691. Now, of course, it's important to remember that the way the government are dealing with the pandemic has changed. We've learned a lot since the first lockdown and the first few cases on how to treat it. But this is extremely worrying, because if the new cases are rising at such a level, and the tiered system that has been imposed is not reducing those numbers, and we're just a few days away from Christmas, where people are going to meet, people are going to increase the spread, you're going to see a spike, then in January there will be a lockdown. A massive lockdown. It may be even stricter than the first lockdown. And we don't know for how long it will be. Now, my fear is that Boris Johnson will try and avoid it, as he normally does, and wait and wait and wait. And, you know, he will come under pressure from the likes of Sage to impose another lockdown. Then he will do it. And unfortunately, I fear that he will set another arbitrary date for it to end. Not end the lockdown when the numbers of new cases have been sufficiently suppressed. Now, I have heard stories of hundreds of thousands of new cases per day if there isn't a lockdown imposed, if there is a huge spike at the end of this year. But I truly hope that Boris Johnson looks at this, He's listening to the scientists. He's listening to his advice from SAGE, and he does impose a lockdown. Once again, I'm not a fan of lockdowns, but we know that they work. They bring down the spread. And the tiered system is a failure. It failed before, and it had to be replaced with a lockdown. It's going to fail again. Let me know in the comments section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?